In an era in which the average transaction price for a brand new car in 2023 is above $40,000, we have Subaru providing a wide selection of vehicles that are affordable, attainable, but also crossovers and sedans that you actually want to own and drive on a daily basis. The last time I was here, I had taken a look at the 2023 Subaru Crosstrek to find out exactly what $30,000 gets you in the subcompact crossover market, and we found out that you get quite a bit with the Crosstrek. This time I'm taking a look at the 2023 Subaru Impreza to see if this hatchback gives you the exact same thing, but maybe under $30,000. Now this car is due for a refresh with a slightly new exterior design and also new technology for the interior, but if you're looking to buy a car right now in the first half of 2023 and you want something that's affordable, practical, but also versatile with Subaru symmetrical all-wheel drive, then maybe taking a look at the 2023 Subaru Impreza might be a great decision. Now before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout and thank you to Subaru of Wakefield in Wakefield, Massachusetts for allowing me to do this review. The link will be in the description below so you can check out their extensive Subaru inventory. And speaking of inventory, Subaru of Wakefield is home to the largest selection of new Subarus in New England. So if you are looking for an Impreza, Crosstrek, Forester, Outback, or Ascent, Subaru of Wakefield should be your home for your next Subaru. Also, before we get started, make sure to hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you're notified every time a new video goes live on the channel. And so, without wasting any further time, let's get right in this review. The small car market in 2023 has gradually shrunk throughout the last 10 years, and the shift away from this segment entirely has accelerated in the 2020s to favor larger crossovers that Americans have become infatuated with. Now in 2023, the Subaru Impreza's list of rivals isn't as long as it once was, being reduced primarily to the Corolla, Honda Civic, and Mazda 3. Subaru, now being one of the most affordable manufacturers in the US, still has a hatchback that's attainable for most buyers, while also offering features that are a must-have in a daily driver. With substantial changes for the Impreza on the horizon, the 2023 model year could be a great value for those on a budget. Starting off with pricing, the Impreza hatchback we have today is the Top Trim Limited, coming in with a base cost of just under $27,500. Affordable transportation isn't always the most inspiring, as the main selling points usually encompass their practicality and being economical, which the Impreza certainly falls under those two categories. But just because you're paying less than 30 grand, that doesn't mean it won't be enjoyable to own or drive. Much like the Civic hatchback and the Mazda 3, the Impreza hatchback is budget friendly, while also having the build quality you demand in this market, making you feel as though your money is going a longer way compared to cheaply made subcompact crossover alternatives. In contrast to the Crosstrek, ground clearance for the Impreza is just above 5 inches. And as the full paint finish around the wheel arches suggests, you won't be taking this hatchback off-road, but it should be suitable for winter road conditions. With the 5th generation Impreza being with us for 7 years, and not being a vast departure from the generation that preceded it, Subaru's smallest car is beginning to show its age in 2023. However, the Limited does have aesthetic upgrades that makes its hatchback appear modern, such as chrome accents surrounding the fog lights and being integrated into the grille. But also, the steering responsive LED headlights will provide improved illumination at night, while also adding a youthful look compared to the halogens found on other trims. Moving over to the side profile, the Limited will be sitting on 17-inch alloy wheels that we found provided a sufficient amount of on-road comfort, while simultaneously keeping road noise to a minimum. Suspension-wise, you may find the Impreza hatch to be more forgiving when going over uneven pavement compared to the Crosstrek, as it's not designed to go off-road, nor does it deviate away from being a car, unlike its lifted sibling. You have body color matching side mirrors with turn signal indicators to go along with blind spot detection for added safety. Then coming around to the back, Subaru's retained the design and body lines of this car for quite some time now, which will change for the 2024 model, as styling cues will mimic what you see from the WRX, Forester, and Outback, While not off-road capable, there is some plastic cladding for the rear bumper. But besides that, the Impreza hatchback has a very unassuming road presence compared to the Crosstrek. But thankfully, Subaru will give this car some much needed attention, as it will appear to be more dynamic when its replacement arrives later this year. Under the hood for 2023, you only have one powertrain to choose from, which is the 2-liter Boxer 4-cylinder engine that produces 152 horsepower and 145 pound-feet of torque, and is paired with a CVT. Despite performance numbers not being all that impressive, don't let them fool you, as the Impreza at the very least can help you merge on the highway safely, and even when driving around in the city, this hatchback is responsive enough where it won't lull you to sleep. Unlike its closest competitors, Subaru's symmetrical all-wheel drive does come standard, and for a smaller car priced under $30,000, this alone already puts you one step ahead of the Honda Civic hatchback and front-wheel drive Mazda 3 models. For fuel economy, you're looking at right around 28 miles per gallon in the city and 36 miles per gallon on the highway, making this hatchback economical as well. Stepping inside for the Limited, you'll have heated leather trimmed seats for both the driver and passenger, with the driver's side being power adjustable, whereas passengers will have to find the ideal seating comfort. With an identical interior to the Crosstrek, the cabin is welcoming and a bit cozy, with Subaru incorporating some softer touch materials on the door panels. In front of you, between the analog gauges, there will be a small digital display for the digital speedometer, tire pressure monitoring, and the ability to access some vehicle settings. However, the secondary information screen that sits above the user interface is where you can scroll through outside weather, water and oil temperatures, and see which safety systems are activated among a list of other features. Moving over to the infotainment system, you'll have an 8-inch touchscreen with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility, with the optional technology package giving you onboard navigation and the Harman Kardon premium audio system. Being replaced for the 2024 model year, this head unit is perfect for buyers not looking for the most modern tech, but still desire an intuitive interior. The physical dials and quick access buttons mounted just beneath the screen make it easy to navigate your way through the different menus or change the radio to your favorite station. The same goes for the climate control as well, where the physical knobs quickly adjust the temperature to your desired level of comfort. As always, you will have a rear backup camera with trajectory, and with the Limited, you will have reverse automatic braking and rear cross traffic alert. Then as we continue onto the center console, there will be a cubby for a smartphone with 2 USB inputs and a 12-volt outlet. Between the 2 front seats, you'll have the switches for the 2-level heated seats. And for the center storage compartment, you'll have enough room for smaller items. And rounding out the front seating area, optional is a power moonroof to bring in some natural light to the interior, which our model isn't equipped with. Now moving on to the second row, we're going to start off on the passenger side. And this has been adjusted all the way back, and I've placed it on a bit of a recline. And I still have a good amount of legroom here. Now, I'm not the tallest person out there. I'm around 5'5", and this is exactly what I saw in the Subaru Crosstrek. So it really just comes down to what you're looking for in this market. If you want to go with the lifted version of this, where you have 8.7 inches of ground clearance, or you're just looking for a traditional hatchback. But this is great where you can definitely have average-sized adults sit back here, no problem. But also, this is a good family vehicle as well, especially if you are on a stricter budget between $20,000 and $30,000. But what's interesting here is that I think when it comes to headroom, it seems like there's more headroom in the Impreza than there was in the Crosstrek, and I don't know exactly why that is. I think that if you're on the height of 5'8" or 5'9", you should be able to sit back here without hitting your head on the headliner, and to me it's a bit of a surprise. I was not expecting that at all. Now moving on to the center seat, you are going to have some good placements for your feet, but the center hump is pretty aggressive, so that will take away from legroom and shoulder room as well. And for a compact car like this, you're probably not going to fit a third person in the center. That might be a bit of a squeeze, but on a short drive, it could work. Then on the driver's side, this seat is adjusted to someone of my height, around 5'5", and I can just sit back here and stretch my legs. So if you're looking for a traditional car and you just want to have a vehicle that's affordable and one that has plenty of interior space, I think you're definitely going to love what the Impreza is offering when it comes to the interior. Also back here, you do not have two rear air vents mounted on the center console, which isn't too much of a surprise for a car in this market. However, you do get a center armrest with two cup holders. Now coming around to the back, of course you're not going to have a power liftgate on a hatchback. But inside, behind the second row seats, you're looking at right around 20.8 cubic feet of room, which will be identical to the Subaru Crosstrek, but on par with the Mazda 3 hatchback and Civic hatchback. Now, I think of plenty of room if you are going on a road trip with the family or you're doing grocery runs, where you could probably fit maybe 6-7 bags of luggage back here easily. I was able to fit all my camera gear today, so that's 2 bags, a gimbal box, and 2 tripods, and I could have stuffed in even more items if I really wanted to. Then with the second row seats full, you're looking at right around 55 cubic feet of room, once again being on par with the Subaru Crosstrek and others in this market. So if you aren't looking for a crossover and you're just looking for a hatchback that gives you the car-like driving experience, I think that's where the Impreza is going to be a great option for you. Also back here, you will have a rear cargo cover, which will keep all your valuable items out of sight. So if you are like me and you have camera gear or anything else of value, you can leave them back here and have that peace of mind knowing that no one will be able to peek in and steal what you have. On top of that, beneath the floor mat, you will have a spare tire. So if you encounter a flat on your road trips or travels, you can fix that and be back on the road. And finally, for the moment we've all been waiting for, let's take the Impreza out on a test drive. So we're now behind the wheel of the 2023 Subaru Impreza. Let's see how this vehicle performs, how it handles, how it drives, and admittedly, this is the first time I'm driving a Subaru with the 2-liter 4-cylinder engine. So I'm very interested in seeing how this compares to the Subaru Crosstrek that I just test drove, which you guys have probably already seen that review. So I'm doing this back to back. I think it would be a good comparison. But also, if you are looking at buying a hatchback and you don't need the 8.7 inches of ground clearance, this might be a good alternative and a great option. The hatchback market here in the US has shrunk quite a bit compared to where we were, say, 5 to 10 years ago, where even Volkswagen got rid of the Golf to favor the GTI and Golf R, and at the bare minimum, you're spending close to $30,000 for a base GTI. Now, close rivals would be the Honda Civic hatchback and also the Mazda 3, and I really feel as though that if you are looking at buying an Impreza, off-road worthiness, ground clearance, ruggedness, just isn't going to be anything you're looking at for your next daily driver. You want a car, and that's exactly what the hatchback is going to give you with the Impreza. In fact, Subaru's really doubling down on the Impreza hatchback because that will be the only option you have for 2024 and moving forward. So the sedan will no longer be offered. And what this vehicle gives you is a lot of practicality, much like we see with the Crosstrek, but also a car that still feels pretty nice in 2023, where the interior quality matches the Crosstrek, and it does feel almost compact car-like when it comes to that interior quality and design, where you have a nice infotainment system, also the secondary information display just above, and even the trim and the dashboard pieces still feel pretty nice for the price point. One thing I have noticed though with the Impreza over the Crosstrek, and it might be because of the smaller tires, the interior is a bit quieter as well. So it has a nice insulation to it, especially when you are driving around the city and the suburbs. Also, no surprises here, as the steering is very light and darty, and you really don't need to put a lot of input into the steering to move this vehicle around. So it has the maneuverability you're looking for if you do have a lifestyle that's really focused around the city and the suburbs. Now, when it comes to overall vision with this hatchback, you have a nice panoramic view. A-pillars are super thin, just like I had seen with the Crosstrek, so you don't need to worry about having any blind spots when you are approaching an intersection. Also, of course, when you take a look at your side mirrors, they are placed in a good spot. Also, of course, the blind spot detection is on the mirror casing itself. Then looking out back, even with the headrest in the way, I can see what's behind me, and that's really one of the benefits of having a hatchback over the sedan. So let's get on this rotary here. Let's see what the handling and performance is like, and then we'll get on the highway. I'll be honest here, the 2-liter is giving me enough power where I can confidently get on rotaries, and we'll see about the highway, but at the moment, I'm not begging for any power here. In the corners, the steering is pretty light. Not a lot of feedback, which is to be expected. This does not have a sports tune suspension, so it's not going to be like the WRX. Also, not a lot of body roll either, so you're definitely going to have the confidence to take on corners at higher speeds with this car. Very agile. Wouldn't say it's sporty, but it's certainly responsive. So let's get on the highway. Let's see what the 2-liter 4-cylinder engine is made of. I'll tell you, this car feels very light on its feet. Okay, that's where I see the difference between the 2 and the 2.5. With the 2.5, you have a lot more confidence getting on the highway, and the engine performs a lot better, and that's to be expected. When you're looking at having 150 horsepower in a vehicle of this size, you're not going to have the most quickest accelerations. However, I wasn't really concerned getting on the highway, but I still would love to have the 2.5. At highway speeds, feels very composed, slightly more composed than the Crosstrek because it doesn't have that higher ground clearance, so it has that nice lower center of gravity. Peppy, very peppy. See, before test driving the Impreza, I was going to say this really does need the 2.5 for this generation. I'm not 100% sure for 2023 on that one. I think it's very responsive. It's quick for what it is. And don't let the numbers on paper fool you. This actually is a pretty quick little car. What's really a standout for me and a focal point with the Impreza during my time with this car is the fact that the interior quality is more reflective of a more expensive car. This actually would be on par with the Mazda 3, the higher trims of the Mazda 3, and I think even the Honda Civic as well. Even though the Honda Civic has been updated recently, this doesn't really seem like a step down at all. Now, of course, I am driving a top trim limited, so that might change my perspective on this car a bit, but the seats are really comfortable. They're very supportive. Also, the materials that Subaru has used, especially for the door trim pieces, but even the dashboard as well, pretty nice for a car that you would look at as just being an econobox. So I don't know if you can really say that about this generation Impreza and Crosstrek, just because there's so much to work with this vehicle, where you have the technology, you have the ride quality, you have the comfort. So this is definitely a car that I think could certainly rival the Honda Civic and Toyota Corolla, especially the Toyota Corolla, which is very outdated. Now, I can't wait to get my hands on the 2024 model for the Impreza and Crosstrek, but right now in 2023, I wouldn't be complaining about this car at all. I think it's giving you quite a bit for its price point. And that's what really has been the whole point of me reviewing both the Crosstrek and the Impreza, because we have to start looking at vehicles that are affordable, where the average transaction price for a brand new car in 2023 is well over $40,000, and that just really isn't attainable for a lot of Americans. And I'm looking for alternatives, and the Impreza and the Crosstrek have certainly been a standout to me over the past few weeks. What I will say with the Impreza is that this is a great first car for a young driver in the family. For one, you have a lot of safety systems, so that way that keeps them out of trouble when they are driving to school or going to their first job. What I also like too is that even though it's not the most potent powertrain, it provides just enough where it might feed their craving for power. And then also it's the interior as well, where it's modernized, even though it does need to be updated for 2024. But also it's the interior too that's very comfortable, and it's suitable, where if they are going to be carpooling, they can have people in the back, or maybe if they're driving the family, they can do that easily. So it's just a great all-around daily driver that is a alternative to a crossover, I do think, though, that Subaru's probably focusing on the Crosstrek more than the Impreza, just because that's the direction that buyers are going in and what buyers are looking for. One thing to keep in mind here is that unlike the Honda Civic, Mazda 3, and Volkswagen GTI, all-wheel drive does come standard, so it makes this car more versatile, even though it doesn't have the 8.7 inches of ground clearance. In my mind, it's just a great daily driver, especially if you live up here in New England, and there's really nothing to complain about. I don't know what you could possibly desire in the Impreza outside of maybe a better powertrain, but as I demonstrated today on this test drive, the 2-liter does more than enough, and I was expecting to complain about it and really begging for the 2.5. Now, I think a lot of it is because the Crosstrek with the 2-liter does leave a bit more to be desired, especially when you have the 2.5 available at your disposal, where 182 horsepower and 176 pound-feet of torque is perfect for a car of this size. But because the Impreza is light and small, I think the 2-liter is more than enough for a car of this size. So to wrap up my time with the 2023 Subaru Impreza, what are my final thoughts and takeaways for this hatchback? My feelings are the exact same as when I filmed the Crosstrek, where the interior quality, even the mixture of technology with the analog buttons, is a nice touch. I also like the fact that this vehicle is very practical for a car under $30,000. Now, the main difference here is that we don't have the 8.7 inches of ground clearance or the available 2.5-liter 4-cylinder engine. But for a car with the 2-liter, I was expecting to be begging for more power. That's not necessarily the case with the Impreza. I think it did quite a good job. The engine is peppy, but of course, the 2.5 is making its way for 2024 with the RS trim, which I think is going to be huge for this hatchback next year. So if you are really focused on getting a better engine, maybe wait until the second half of the year. But ultimately, what this car is offering in 2023 for a price point under $30,000 is a car that has a good amount of technology features, safety features, but also interior quality as well. And if this is your first car, I think it's a great choice just because it is going to be safe, but also you have the all-wheel drive system, so you can get to school and to your first job with that all-wheel drive, so you don't need to worry about dealing with the snow as much. But also, as a daily driver, it's comfortable to drive, and it's also one that I think is pretty good for its price point. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more. Also, make sure to follow me on Instagram at Boston Autoblog so you can see what I'm up to and what vehicles I'll be featuring in the future. And I will see you guys next time.